Hello. Welcome everybody, both here in person and watching online. We are here to announce CAIR's new latest major challenge to the federal terrorism watch list, Karula versus Garland. First, I'm going to have Hannah Mullen here talk about the facts of the case and the horrible effects the watch list has had on our plaintiffs.
Hello everyone. My name is Hannah Mullen. I'm a staff attorney at CAIR LDF. This morning, CAIR, along with our state chapters in Massachusetts, Michigan, and New Jersey, filed a complaint in federal district court in the U.S. District of Massachusetts on behalf of a dozen plaintiffs against 29 federal agency defendants. We represent law-abiding Muslim American citizens, lawful permanent residents, and asylees. They work hard, pay their taxes, pursue their education, and care for their families. They have never been indicted, charged, or convicted of any terrorism-related crime. And yet, without notice or explanation, the federal government extrajudicially sentenced our clients to lifetime second-class citizenship. Like thousands of other innocent Americans, and over 1.5 million people around the world, almost all of them Muslim, our clients have been placed on the federal terrorist watch list. That placement designates them as worthy of permanent suspicion and imposes sweeping consequences that alter nearly every aspect of our clients' lives. As a result of being watchlisted, our clients have suffered a wide range of harms, including being publicly humiliated, surveilled, and harassed when they travel, prevented from attending weddings, funerals, and graduations, denied guns, security clearances, U.S. citizenship, visas, and other government benefits, and even effectively exiled from the United States. The government has never provided our clients with any notice or explanation of their placement on the watch list, and our clients have never had the opportunity to contest their placement on that list. They are baffled that the United States has apparently decided to treat them as known or suspected terrorists. Our clients have been swept onto the watch list because the standards for watch list inclusion are vague rubber stamps at best, and in practice are used to target and discriminate against Muslims. Over 98% of the names on portions of the watch list that were leaked in 2019 are identifiably Muslim. That did not happen by accident. The federal government considers the very fact of being Muslim to be suspicious and puts people on the watch list as the result of their Muslim identity, Islamic religious beliefs, Islamic religious practices, travel to Muslim-majority countries, and other discriminatory factors. None of our clients have ever been indicted or convicted of a terrorism-related crime. In fact, no suspicion of criminal activity at all is required to place somebody on the list. And under the vague, rubber stamp at best inclusion standards that govern the list, the government has added over 1.85 million names to the list since 2019, almost all of them Muslim. Rather than a tool for protecting the United States, the watch list operates as a de facto Muslim registry. And because the standards for placing someone on the list are so permissive, pliable, and laden with discrimination, they bear a vanishingly small connection to actual terrorist activities. As a result, the watch list is completely ineffective at protecting national security. And even if the federal government itself determines that somebody shouldn't be on the watch list, that person's prior placement on the list will continue to haunt them for the rest of their lives. This lawsuit publicly reveals for the first time that the federal government continues to use past watch list status to stigmatize and harm people, even after they are removed from the list. Several agencies retain records of past watch list status and continue to use that status to deny formerly listed individuals government benefits, like security clearances, employment, access to government buildings, and other licenses and permissions for the rest of their lives. Plaintiff Mohammed Harala, the longtime mayor of Prospect Park, New Jersey, was placed on the watch list in 2019. After suffering years of humiliation, delays, searches, and interrogations while traveling, Mayor Harala was taken off the list in 2019, but the government still retains records of his past status and uses them against him. As a result, the U.S. Secret Service barred him from entering the White House and attending an Eid al-Fitr celebration earlier this year. In other words, once an individual is placed on the watch list, they are branded as a second-class citizen for life, even if the government eventually realizes that they should not have been placed on the list in the first place. After 20 years of harassment, surveillance, and abuse targeted at the Muslim community, it is time for America to recognize the watch list for what it is: a disgraceful vestige of the Bush administration's war on terror that targets our Muslim family members, friends, and neighbors while doing nothing to keep us safe. My colleague Justin Sadowski will now speak in more detail about the legal claims that our complaint lays out and explain why the watch list is unconstitutional and illegal many times over. Thank you.
I want to start out by noting there's nothing in our system of government or laws like the Federal Terrorism Watch List. There's no other list of secret names given you to punish. The government will not deny or confirm that you are on the list where you have a number of specific, concrete infringements on your liberty as a result of being on the list. The watch list violates for that reason. It violates a number of constitutional statutory rights that we as Americans have, most prominently our right to due process. We know that when and various entities have a right to nominate other government agencies and even foreign governments, that when they make nominations to the Federal Terrorism Watch List based on the vague standards that Hannah mentioned, that the Terrorism Screening Center, sometimes called the Threat Screening Center, accepts them with a 99% acceptance rate. We know that from looking at the list that this correlates to two different segments of populations. If you look at the list, as we've said, we've had statistical research done on the 2019 leaked portion of the list. The list is about 99% Muslim names and only 1% non-Muslim names. What that doesn't tell you is that if you go to the 1% of the non-Muslim names and you Google any of those names, you will find out why they're on the list. Often you'll see a person who was an IRA bomber in Ireland, or the sarin bomber in Tokyo, or a number of Colombian revolutionaries who are currently sitting in a jail in Colombia. For the average Muslim name that you get no sort of hint as to why they're on the list, unless, except for the occasional political dissident or Nobel Peace Prize nominee. The reason for this is straightforward, and it goes to the heart of the due process violation. The government will put you on the list if you've been convicted of a terrorist-related crime. Okay. If they reasonably suspect you of a terrorist-related crime, they will not put you on the list. We know this. We have had this confirmed in depositions in other cases. And they won't put you on the list for a very straightforward reason. The list has a number of obvious natural consequences. And if someone is placed on the list, that is telling them that when they travel or when they cross a border or when they apply for certain clearances, that they are being actively surveilled by the U.S. government. The U.S. government will not confirm it, but anybody with 2 cents know that there's a strong likelihood when they get watch list related consequences that they're being surveilled. So the only people the government puts on the list, other than the small people who've been actually convicted of terrorism, are people that the government actually does not reasonably suspect of terrorism. But when you're on the list, you get no process at all. You're not told you're on the list. If you file something called a DHS trip application, which is what you're supposed to file if you have travel-related difficulties, the government will neither confirm nor deny you're on the list. They certainly will not provide any explanation as to why you're on the list, and they will give you no chance to rebut. There is no neutral decision maker in the system to judge whether you've been fairly put on the list, even under the government's lax and vague standards. For very similar reasons, the list also violates the Equal Protection Clause. The list, as we've mentioned before, is over 98% Muslim. Studies and the FBI themselves have confirmed that the actual largest threat to Americas, the most likely to commit an act of terrorism, the ones who've committed most of the acts of terrorism in the last however many years you go back, are actually not Muslim. They typically are white nationalists. And yet the list remains 99% Muslim. And the reason why that is so important, we're not asking the government to do to other communities what it has done to the Muslim community. But if it did do to other communities, if what was happening in Dearborn was happening across the country, if other Muslim communities if that treatment was given to other American citizens, the amount of damage and harm it would do, the amount of fear it would put into those communities would be felt broadly, and people would protest and go to Congress, and it would be stopped immediately. Only by directing this harm at a very small, disfavored portion of America has the watch list be able to proliferate despite any lack of success and despite the harm it does to innocent Americans. We're also bringing claims under the Fourth and Fifth Amendment. The government searches and seizes electronic devices at the border whenever a person on the watch list enters the country, even though they have no reasonable suspicion that they've been, and in fact, almost as I mentioned by definition, by definition do not have reasonable suspicion of them committing any crime. That violates the Fourth Amendment. We look forward to proving that. We have related Fifth Amendment claims, one on self-incrimination because the government demands people supply their passwords or biometrical information so that they can unlock the phones in order to do their intrusive searches. There's also a seizure of person allegation because people hold them for hours even though they have no valid reason to hold U.S. citizens who have an absolute right to enter the country, except to perform illegal searches and to intimidate them into interrogations that they have the right to refuse. There's a RFRA claim, that's the Religious Freedom Restoration Act for religious questioning. As we've shown in our another case called Sherry in the Eastern District of Michigan, the government has a secret list it's no longer secret, of religious questions that they ask people at the border, primarily on the watch list, such as what mosque they pray at, what their religious beliefs, how many times they pray, whether they wear hijab, who their religious leaders are, and what their religious beliefs are. This is an intrusive violation of their religious rights, and we intend to put a stop to it. We have an APA claim, that's the Procedures Act, Administrative Procedures Act claim. We've related to the sharing of terrorist watch list information with state and local police officers, leading to those police having extended, repeated, and often dangerous encounters with cops who are scared, thinking that they're dealing with an actual terrorist when they're not. The NCIC, which they share that information with, is only statutory and regulatory authorized to allow the sharing of criminal information, of which watchlist status is not. We have another APA claim related to our due process claim because the watch list, in its massive violations of due process and its targeting of the Muslim community, is both arbitrary and capricious. And finally, we have a major questions doctrine similar to the challenge we brought in the Northern District of Texas that's currently before the Fifth Circuit. We are here on the 20th anniversary of the executive order that created the Federal Terrorism Watch List. And that's what it was, an executive order. Congress has never authorized the Federal Terrorism Watch List. They did not authorize it in the Patriot Act. This was done entirely at the direction of President George W. Bush 20 years ago. It's been followed by every administrator, but Congress has never authorized it. And this type of massive invasive intrusion into people's lives and punishment is something only Congress can authorize. But it certainly, even if Congress does not need to authorize, which it does, Congress has the power to stop it. And so alongside this lawsuit, we call on Congress to take its regulatory power back from the executive and end the watch list by statute. Thank you. If you have any questions, Hannah and I are here to answer them.
Assalamu alaikum. Sorry about that. I am Shafiqul Mashana. I'm with the Government Affairs Department. My name is spelled Shafiquil, last name Muhshna, and I'm going to be talking about the CAIR 2023 Muslim Community Travel Discrimination Survey. This survey was conducted between August 23rd and September 12th, 2023. this is an informal survey that self-identifying Muslims responded to how their experiences during traveling was. It's a multiple choice question formatted on SurveyMonkey. It was administered through social media and different social media platforms. The question that was asked during the survey was, has SSS ever appeared on your airline boarding pass? 36% of people responded with yes. Another question that was asked is, has your cell phone or other electronic device ever been seized while you were returning from or leaving an international destination? About 13% people have responded yes. The next question that was asked was if you've ever felt that transportation security agencies or customs and border protection representatives have asked you questions that have more to do with your faith or ethnicity rather than your reasons for traveling. And about 35% said yes. And the last question that was asked was if you know someone personally who has dealt with any of the above travel issues. About 65% of people have responded with yes. And if you have any questions about the survey, the methodology, or the demographics that we had used, feel free to ask us. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.